Is this a sign that Jungkook will return, but not as a BTS member? Why did HYBE convey it indirectly? And why was Taehyung the one who answered it with emotion? Is this the beginning of the meeting we've been waiting for, or the end we never imagined? Surprising connection. The content of HYBE's announcement turns out to be related to Jungkook. Taehyung commented on this. ARMY was made speechless by the longing that was too deep. When was the last time we actually heard Jungkook's voice speak from his heart? Not in the song, not in a short video full of filters, but a real whisper about longing, about separation, and about unexpected possibilities. And the question now, why didn't Jungkook deliver it directly, but HYBE and Taehyung? That day, the announcement from HYBE came like the last wind, without context, without a name, just a slip of the statement. There will be a restoration of the formation by next fall. The ARMY knows. We all know. Behind that stiff sentence, there was a very familiar beat. And as it turned out, the conjecture was true. What is meant is not just any return of idol, but a code. Jungkook. But why didn't Jungkook deliver the news himself? Why go through the company? And then, Taehyung? The answer did not come from the press conference table. Not even from the media. But from one low sentence that Taehyung uttered in his live stream session a few days later. Only with a soft voice and a smile that seemed to hold back more than happiness, he said, "I guess it's about time. I guess I could see it sooner than I thought." Jungkook said he wanted to tell me first. No names were mentioned, but the ARMY didn't need more than a second to understand. He was talking about Jungkook, and about something much bigger than just back. This question is not without foundation. Because when a big news is delivered not by the owner, but through another person, and even more so, emotionally revealed by his closest friend, then it is clear that something has not been said clearly. ARMY caught that vibe. Something's on hold. There are decisions that may be too painful to say directly. It is not the first time that HYBE has used ambiguous sentences like this. But this time the context is different. Too much silence on Jungkook's part. Too much longing on Taehyung's part. And too many unfinished tears have been shed by ARMYs around the world. Why did the announcement of the idol's return actually make many fans feel more anxious than relieved? Is it because the word back does not always mean united? Jungkook is the youngest member of BTS. Always cheerful, full of spirit, and never tired of giving everything for the ARMY. But for the past 2 years, no one really knew what Jungkook looked like under his military uniform. Who does he miss? What do you think about the future of BTS? Taehyung knows the answer, but he didn't say it explicitly. It just gives a hint. And of all the clues he gave, the one that touched my heart the most was when he said, "I don't want to lose another chance. I used to think our time would last, but it turns out the longing can grow like a wound." Jungkook knew I was waiting for him, and he said, "If I'm the first to know, it's not for nothing." What does that phrase mean? Why chance? Why should I be the first? Is this some kind of promise that when it's all over, there's only one person who will be Jungkook's excuse to get back on stage? One thing that makes Taehyung's statement so emotional is not just longing. Because of the open. He did not hide the feeling that he felt lost. He wasn't even trying to sound strong. And therein lies the surprise that so shook the hearts of the ARMY. Usually, idols will act strong, as if all is well. But not this time. Taehyung didn't play that role. It shows the most human side, the fear of loss. The feeling of wanting to hug back a person who has been far away for too long. And when her tears began to wane as she read the comment, "When are you going to come back together?" he simply replied, "If I were asked to answer, I would say, the day is coming soon." But not because we have to, because we voted for it. For a moment, the fandom world went silent. One by one, the ARMY wrote tearful comments. Not a few admitted that they could not hold back tears. Because Taehyung's speech isn't just about someone's return. It's about a hope that's about to be extinguished, but rekindled by a love that never changes. This is the most emotional and confusing part. Why not Jimin or Jin or RM? Why was Taehyung the first to know? Naturally, this reopens the long history of their relationship. Two people who understand each other even without a word. Two people whose relationship can never really be explained by logic. Many suspected that Jungkook wanted to make sure that if he was going to return, then there was one person who had to know first. Not for career reasons, but because of the taste. Because one part of her was still left behind on their last night in BTS's dorm. I thought if I can come back, at least I want him to wait for me there. Jungkook said, according to Taehyung, and that sentence alone was enough to break the defense of the hearts of the army who had been waiting for their meeting for a long time. Because it's not about a comeback. It's about returning home. And for Jungkook, the house isn't just BTS. It's someone inside one side of the fandom is starting to get scared. Afraid that this is the last news from Jungkook as a member of BTS. But the other side, it just feels more attached. For there is no parting more honest than that which takes place in silence, and no promise more beautiful than that which is delivered with tears. And all this uncertainty, the one thing we can trust is the word of the heart. And Taehyung, with all the pain and tears he could hold behind his smile, was enough to hint that hope wasn't dead. That's a question that's still not officially answered. But now we know that if he comes back, then not just as Magne. He will return as someone who has rediscovered the meaning of home. And when that day comes, when the stage is lit up again, perhaps we will see two figures standing closest, not because of the choreographic formation, but because their hearts are indeed never separated. That army stand by. Because that day is getting closer. But do not prepare for an ordinary concert. Get ready for a story we've only dreamed of. When two hearts separated by time finally choose to walk together again, and if it is true that this news is the beginning of a meeting that we have longed for, then it is time that we ask, is this a sign that BTS is not finished, or that the real story is just beginning? 10-2. Barakat adalah lanjutan dari artikel emosional ini yang akan terus memperdalam koneksi antara Jungkook dan Taehyung, membeda isi pengumuman HYBE, dan menggencang hati ARMY. Dengan kejutan-kejutan yang tidak terduga, semuanya tanpa poin-poin, dan tetap mempertahankan gaya clickbait, penuh pertanyaan, petunjuk, dan emosi. Mari kita lanjutkan. And sure enough, after Taehyung opened up about Jungkook, the fandom changed completely. Comments began to flood social media. Did Taehyung just signal about the future of BTS? Why does the sentence sound like a farewell? Should it be about a meeting? Even the hashtags #comebackjungkook and #Taehyung is real again were trending for more than 18 hours in more than 26 countries. But it's not the trend that's at the center of attention. What caught Taehyung's attention was when he said, "She told me first, because I'm the one he's most worried about." The sentence hit the army like a storm. It was as if all the wasted time, all the cold and lifeless pauses during Jungkook's enlistment were suddenly filled with meaning. If what Taehyung said is true, that Jungkook told the news of his return only to him first, then it's not just gratitude that we feel, but also a small wound called doubt. Does Jungkook feel like he can't talk about it to the other members? Do you doubt their response? Or is it only to Taehyung that he dares to be completely honest? No one could answer, except Jungkook himself. But until now, Jungkook has remained silent. Silence is not empty. Silence that vibrates. And precisely because of that silence, all of Taehyung's words felt deeper. It was as if Jungkook was speaking through Taehyung. Not because he doesn't want to talk, but because it is only to Taehyung his heart's content can arrive intact, unfiltered, without fear. Taehyung didn't mention the word comeback. He never called it a concert. It does not mention album. But he mentioned one word that the army has not been able to forget since then: miss. And if homesickness is the main reason, then it's not just about work. It's about the heart. It's about a bond that is more than a group. Some of the army even started digging back all the past footage, looking for traces left by Jungkook and Taehyung. Their last video together before Jungkook enlisted. Spontaneous comments on Weverse. Even small moments like the look in the eyes during the last fan meeting before the long break. And in each of those pieces of memory, there's one thing they have in common. They depend on each other. Now, with HYBE's ambiguous announcement and Taehyung's meaningful comments, all of those pieces are starting to look like they're part of a big, hidden puzzle. What exactly is their plan? Will they return as a duo? Is this some kind of new step that they have designed together secretly, even before the draft begins? If you think this is just speculation, think again. Because not long after Taehyung's live stream ended, a mysterious post from HYBE's production staff appeared that was immediately deleted in just 17 minutes. In the post, you can see a snippet of the document with the title of the project, Project Autumn, JK and V Phase 1. Is this just a? Naturally, here is the continuation of the article. We'll dive deeper into the emotional confrontation, RM's involvement, and Jungkook's confession that shook things up, still in emotional style, full of surprises, questions, and unfinished mysteries. That afternoon, exactly 2 days after Taehyung's broadcast, shocking news came from an unexpected place. A senior music reporter, who has been known to be close to HYBE's management, posted a single sentence on his personal account that immediately left thousands of ARMY holding their breath. RM will talk. What does that mean? Talk about what?
Done?
Why now? Until then, RM, who has always been a bridge between BTS members and the outside world, has not issued a single statement about his comeback plans, Taehyung, or even about Jungkook. He remained calm, closed, like an unshakable rock despite waves of questions coming from all directions. But now he'll talk. The question, to explain or to stop, speculation is mounting. Some believe RM will clarify the leaked Project Autumn project. Others believe he will affirm BTS's return as a complete group, removing all ARMY's fears. But they're also secretly anxious that RM will deliver a bitter decision that we are never ready to hear, and when the day came, RM's live broadcast began without an intro. There is no opening music. There is no special greeting. Only his face, tired, serious, but honest. His first voice sounded heavy. It takes a lot of courage to say it. I think it's time. The opening sentence was like a small earthquake. RM did not smile. He doesn't hide his expression. He looked at the camera like someone who had been holding the weight for too long. And when he began to speak, the world was silent. He did not mention Jungkook's name. He didn't mention Taehyung. But from the way he described someone who goes but never goes away, everyone knew who he meant. And when he said, "There's a plan that I don't even know when to start," one thing became clear. Something was being prepared. Not all members are in it. The sentence made the ARMY hold back tears. RM has never publicly acknowledged that there is a distance between members. But that night, he didn't just admit it. He expressed it with tears. He's talking about change, about difficult decisions, about the respect between the members that made them choose their respective paths, not because they wanted to separate, but because they wanted to understand each other more deeply. He said, "Jungkook needs time," and we gave it. But Taehyung, never let him go. And when he said that sentence, RM cried. Tears that are not made up. A cry that comes from something much bigger than just music. Because that night, it wasn't the BTS leader who was talking, but friends, brother, and part of the family that was almost destroyed, and text.
No explanation.
Just a silhouette of two people standing with their backs to the camera, facing a dark sky filled with stars. The ARMY panicked. Everyone asks, is this Jungkook and Taehyung? Is this a silent confirmation that they will get back together? Or is it a farewell greeting made in the most poetic way? While thousands of theories were milling around, one thing happened that made everything even more dramatic. Jungkook wrote on Weverse. Very short writing, but very deep. You must be confused. Me too. But for sure, I hear you.
14 words.
And the whole fandom fell silent. There is no emoji, no details. But only Jungkook could write like that, making millions feel embraced and abandoned at the same time. Some ARMY members linked the post to rumors that Jungkook had turned down an offer to perform with Taehyung for a special project in the fall. Some believe the conflict was caused by Jungkook's unpreparedness for the spotlight after a stressful time in the military. But why only Taehyung knows? And why can only RM explain it? An anonymous source from the industry mentioned that there is an internal recording not yet released to the public that shows an emotional meeting between Jungkook and Taehyung at a military camp. In the video, it is mentioned that Taehyung came